Yo, welcome back to Out the Chair Podcast. Today we got a special guest, man. When I first heard his story, it really touched me and it really motivated me and it really just made me appreciate life. Today we got my brother Marvin Cotton Jr. Appreciate you for coming on the show, man.
Absolutely, I'm honored to be here.
No doubt, man. It's definitely a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. So before we start, we like to always do a mental health check-in. We like to see where our mental health is on a rate of 1 to 10. So we let you go first, Cash. Where you say your mental health is this week, bro?
My mental health this week, man. I'm in a good headspace. I say it's about at a 7.5, 8, and I'ma just be honest. You know what I'm saying? Just dealing with a lot of business stuff and a lot of family, and just adjusting to new schedules, and you know what I'm saying? Just normal life, but it's about a 7.5, 8.
This has been a rough week, just honestly, dealing with several deaths in the last several days. So it's a pretty rough week. Just to be 100, I don't really deal with loss or grief because, as you know, I spent 19 years, 7 months and 12 days in prison for a crime I didn't commit, but just being in prison and not having a natural flow of grief. Yeah. I don't grieve like what's probably normal or what's even healthy. That I feel, I feel the promise of the future. It's pretty rough, man. Just some close people just didn't make it.
Yeah. Sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna say my mental health probably a solid, about a solid 9. Okay. A solid 9. Can't complain about too much.
Okay, I ain't gonna lie, man. I'm just being transparent with y'all. I'll probably say I'm about at a 6. Even though I recently just came back from vacation, Mexico, it's just sometimes the battle that we deal with is literally within ourselves. And when you by yourself a lot, sometimes you fall short of being able to pick yourself up every day. So it's just one of them weeks, like you say, having a bad week. But other than that, I'm good.
Absolutely. I appreciate that y'all even had like a mental check-in, man. That's definitely important, especially in our community amongst our men. That's something that we just don't talk about. Yeah. Something we don't do, so I appreciate y'all for that.
Man, it's something that really has been like a taboo in our community as far as just asking somebody how they doing or shit, really getting down to the nitty-gritty and figuring out what's wrong with somebody.
Right. Yeah. Especially when you the strong male figure.
Exactly.
People don't ask you anything because everybody's pulling on you and leaning on you for your strength. And it's very rare that people check in and say, hey, what's going on? How you doing?
It don't make you less of a man to be feeling, hurt or going through certain things.
Absolutely.
And not to mention, it's like a lot of people that think checking on mental health is kind of corny nowadays. It's kind of, you know what I'm saying? It's everybody trying to be too cool for school. But we gonna hop right into the right into this. So I want to start off by asking Marv, like, where did you you are from Detroit, right?
Yes.
You are from the city. Okay, so like, what area did you come up in?
I was born and raised on the west side of Detroit. Mackenzie High School is no longer there, but I think it's like an elementary school now. But I went to Mackenzie High School. I grew up in that area, born and raised over there.
You might know my mom. I think my mom went to Mackenzie. So yeah.
No, if I ain't that old, bro. What you mean your mom?
Hey, my bad, man. I don't know. I know they did knock down the building though, but
Play any sports there?
No, I got off into girls at an early age, man. So sports was out of the window. Everybody else was running around playing football, pick them up, mess them up, and all that.
Right.
And I was in the house on the phone talking to some girl.
man,
I ain't gonna lie, I was the total opposite. That's why I played sports.
Right, to get the girls.
Sports, you get the girls.
No, for sure. So yeah, I heard you put the emphasis on 19 years, what was it, 12?
19 years, 7 months, 12 days.
And you really remember those days like it was yesterday. Like, can you just walk us through like the upcoming days?
Yeah.
to you being sentenced for 19 years?
Yeah, it means something. Each of those days, it meant something. I wasn't supposed to be there, so each day hurted like that. You have good days in prison. You have bad days. You have horrible days in prison. But even the good days are bad days. Even the good days, you feel guilty for having a good day. Because you catch yourself smiling, or you catch yourself laughing, or you catch yourself enjoying a moment, and then it just reminds you that you're not even supposed to be there. So even good days are compounded with like, damn, where the hell am I? Yeah. And am I letting my guard down? But prison is a very volatile, very violent, very ugly reality. And it affects every single relationship that you have in your life. Like, every relationship is affected or strained or broken. You lose people. So those 19 years, 7 months, and 12 days were me trying to maintain relationships that were falling apart, people falling away. The initial years, I'm losing property, I'm losing money, I'm losing anything that I had. So by the time I get to the 19 years, 7 months, and 12 days, I walked out of prison with nothing. Yeah. And everything in between was a battle with the courts, a fight with the courts, fighting with my attorneys, fighting with private investigators, fighting with, so it was just constant fighting, as well as fighting on the prison yard. So coming from up under that, I got a fighter's mentality. Yeah. So that kind of goes to the work that I do now. I'm still in fight mode. It's just a different fight.
Let's rewind back a little bit. Like, when did you go in? Like, when?
I was arrested in February of 2001. Okay. Were you born?
I was born. I was born in '97.
So, not too far off. Yeah, I was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, felony firearm, and there were several other charges in there as well, but most of which got dropped before I went to trial. Okay. And I went to trial in that same year in 2001, October 2001, and I was subsequently convicted of first-degree murder and felony firearm, and my battle started there. Well, actually, it started before that, but it really started there.
You was just really just living a regular life before this, and just
Well, what is regular? I grew up not only in the hood, I grew up in the streets. Okay. The life that I've grown into now is, a life that I didn't live before my experience. I'm still practicing being the man that I am now, because all of this is new to me. Yeah. Trying to do good deeds and good works in the community and help people out and use my life in the service of others. I'm still practicing that. I'm trying to become better and better and better at that.
So would you say you regret going through the situation you did? And the only reason I ask that is because for instance, T.D. Jakes. I listen to a lot of T.D. Jakes, and he talk about how when you go through certain things and God try to put you in a certain place, it's a certain tool that he used to crush you. In order for him to crush you, like, for instance, it could have been a jail sentence that you had to do, but you had to go through that in order to be at the position you at now. Right. So with that, do you ever have them thoughts?
Regret would not be anything that I feel when it comes to that circumstance, because I didn't do anything to regret. So that particular emotion or that sequence of thoughts I've never even considered like regret. However, we pray for things all the time. We want things, we desire things all the time. And if we knew the process that we was going to have to go through in order to become what we prayed for, we would be praying a lot less. Exactly. But, always wanted to do some great things. I never imagined doing the stuff that I'm doing now, but I always kind of, I wanted to be great. I wanted to do some things with myself. And the circumstance that I went through and that I suffered under was absolutely necessary for me to become the man that I am now, doing the things that I'm doing now. So, you know, it was painful. It hurted. I still hurt. I hurt for others that's going through what I'm going through. Just seeing it brings back the trauma that I went through with that. But that trauma and that pain and that fire and that pressure helped carve out who I am now, and I'm proud of who I am now.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I definitely, lesson I've been learning is, I said it on the last episode, like the ability to learn is a gift, even if pain is the teacher. So it's like all them painful moments that we go through, it's so important to be able to get a lesson from out of that so you can get to the point where you at.
Absolutely.
I think that's
Absolutely.
So yeah, I got a question. So when you actually got locked up, was it did you do any dead time to where it was just you were in there and you didn't know what you was in there for? Or was it just like as soon as you got locked up, they said, look, this is what it is, this is what you did?
Yeah, well this is pretty much everybody has the exact same process because constitutionally you have to have a certain process.
Right.
You're arrested, you are arraigned. Sometimes there may be a questioning in between your arrest and your arraignment. When you're arraigned, you know, they read your charges to you. Like, hey, you being charged with first degree murder, you being charged with felony firearm, it carries this, how do you plead? And then from that point, you may get some discovery, meaning you get a packet of everything. It's supposed to get a packet of everything involving the case. Then you have a preliminary hearing, which is like a mini trial, where they bring the witnesses in and everything's like a little mini trial. Takes place within 14 days of your arrest. That's what it's supposed to be. Most attorneys kind of get their clients to waive that 14 days, which you should never do. And then after that preliminary hearing, there's a point in time where you can like file motions and ask for different things to be dismissed. You're asking for more discovery. You're trying to figure out some things before trial so that you can develop your strategy. And then, you know, several months later, sometimes a couple of years later, but they're supposed to get you a trial within 180 days. And if you ask for it and they don't get you your trial within 180 days, they will have to dismiss the case. But I went to trial 10 months later, 10 months later, and, you know, I was subsequently convicted wrongfully.
So when you heard that guilty, like, how did that set in and like knowing that you didn't do it?
Right. You don't hear, well, I didn't hear the word guilty because, you know, that's all I hear in my ears.
Right.
You know, and I know that probably just messed with the mic while I'm hitting on my chest. But that's all I heard in my ear. You know, I couldn't hear, I can barely see. You know, I felt numb. You know, I just went through this trial for the last four and a half days, and you know, I'm beat up. You know, when you're in the county jail, when you go on a trial, they wake you up at like 4 o'clock in the morning for you to get your shower. Then you get your shower, and then they start moving you at like 4:30, and you're getting strip searched several times before you even make it to the courtroom, and they got you in these dirty cells. They putting you around a bunch of other people. Everybody cranky. You got drug addicts coming off their drugs, so there's people fighting. You know what I'm saying? So by the time you making it to the courtroom, all we see on TV is when the person come from the back and they bring them out.
Right.
That person just went through hell in order to walk into that courtroom, and they tired.
Right.
Not only are you stressed because you know you're fighting for your life, you just went through that process every single day. Yeah. So they wearing you out, and then afterwards they take you through that process in reverse. So you in court all day, sitting in this hard wooden chair, and when you're in the back, you're sitting on concrete, and then now they take you through that same process that's gonna take 2.5, 3 hours to get you back up to the cell for them to wake you up at 4 o'clock in the morning again. You see? So they wear you out. So that process is it's a hell of a process just to sit in the courtroom to fight a trial. But it's designed that way strategically. Yeah. They're trying to break you. They're trying to wear you out.
Can you walk us through the day that it happened, though? Like, I know we kind of jumped a little forward, but I kind of want you to touch on the day that everything happened. Can you explain that to us?
Well, you know, I was arrested based off of, I hired a private investigator many years after I was incarcerated. I had several private investigators, but I hired a private investigator probably maybe 10 years after I had been incarcerated. He probably was like my 6th or 7th private investigator. And he went and investigated, and talked to some of the detectives in my case. And one of the detectives, which was the lead detective, I believe was pretty honest on the recording. And on the recording, he says that they didn't have anything, so they had to do what they had to do. And what they did was took information from a unknown person and took that information and gave it to another witness, and the other witness came into court and testified as if it was like firsthand knowledge. And they never disclosed that. And that was one of the reasons that led to my conviction being overturned.
Is that the Exonerated 5?
Oh, yeah. It's definitely a Lifetime movie. That was one of the detectives. Another detective went to prison himself for 13 bank robberies. Damn. You got another detective involved in my case that, went on a high-speed chase from the police with an illegal gun while he was drunk, and that was his second DUI. So it's many layers, unfortunately, to the cast of characters involved in this case.
I don't know, you familiar with Wallow?
Yes.
Wallow, so
yes, I follow him on Instagram.
I ain't gonna lie, I love Wallow. But I was listening to one of his stories called, one of his podcasts called Stories from the Cell. And he said that when he first realized that like shit was real was when he, I guess when you get processed through the prison, you sit down with the ladies and they get like all your information and stuff down. So she had asked him what, just in case anything happened, where would you want your body sent? So that was the moment he was like, what? And he realized that stuff was real like at that moment. So what moment was it to where you realized like, oh, this is...
that didn't happen for me. I spent several months in the county jail feeling like I was in a dream. My first several months was like, felt like I was in a dream. It didn't feel real. It just did not feel real. You know how the haze you in when you wake up. You like kind of like in the haze where you done slept real hard and somebody wake you up suddenly, and you just like walking through life for the few minutes that it takes you to wake up. That's how I felt the entire time. A profound numbness, and it was on me really thick. But after I was found guilty, that profound numbness got even thicker. And then I went into the prison system. Now, when I was in the prison system, my first day in Jackson quarantine, my first day, I get in there, you walk in, and it looked like something like you can't even describe it because you feel so small when you walk in and you see those 4 galleries stacked all the way up, and they're like you can put huge airplanes, those big 757s in there. Like that's how big it is in there, and you just feel so small. Now, when I got there, it was empty. Everybody was out at Child.
You said, where was you at?
Jackson quarantine, where they send everybody that was over a certain age, all the adults had to process through there. Now, Jackson used to be very notorious. It was the most notorious prison in the world, especially in the Western Hemisphere. 7,500 people lived there, and people got murdered there all the time. Now, it was a different time when I came through. Still a dangerous place, but not what it used to be. So I go up. They had me on the 3rd gallery, and it's like a little rail around the thing like this. I'm like, what would stop somebody from just throwing somebody over, which has happened many times. So I go in there, and it's an old school prison with the bars and everything. So I sit down in there, and I remember thinking like, damn, how the hell did I get in here? How the hell did this happen to me? So later on that day, people start coming back in, and, it's loud. It's loud in jail. It's loud in prison. It's always loud. It's always noise. You always hear something. When I got out and started hearing silence, it's when it was just like, what's going on? What's wrong? Because I heard noise for so long. So I'm in there, and guys, they talking, they cussing each other out, and I'm kind of seeing the flow of things. So it was an officer making a round.
Real quick, and I'll cut into you real quick. How old was you at this point?
I was 21. I was 21 years old.
Okay.
I was 21. No, I had just turned 22 because I got sentenced to a natural life sentence without the possibility of parole 1 week after my birthday, my 22nd birthday. So I was 22. And while I'm sitting in the cell and I'm just standing at the bars and I'm looking out, looking down, looking around, and somebody lit a match, because you used to be able to smoke in prison. Somebody lit some tissue on fire, some sort of concoction that they made, probably had some deodorant on it or something, and threw it over the rail. And I'm looking at it as it's falling, and there was an officer walking by, and it fell right on their head. They timed it just perfectly, and the officer fell on his head, so he flailing around. I was like, oh, shit, this is... oh, so this is how it go down in here. So they went up to his cell, about 12 of them. They went up in there deep. They call them the Goon Squad. The Goon Squad went in there with their shields and their masks, and they pepper sprayed them. Now, this is an old school prison, so it's bars, it's like open. So when they pepper sprayed him, they pepper sprayed everybody. So everybody in there choking and hollering, and they over pepper sprayed him, because they wanted to punish him for what he just did, and everybody choking, everybody hollering. So now you got multiple people throwing stuff out of the bars and lighting more fires. So they beat him up in the cell, then they took him out the cell, cuffed up, had him hog tied with his legs cuffed behind him, and they took him down to the desk, and they beat him all night.
Damn.
So we hear him hollering for help and crying and pleading for his life all night, literally all night. So that's when it got really real for me. When that moment hit, like, I'm in hell. Like, that's where I'm at right now. I was there for about 40 days before they sent me to my first official prison, which was St. Louis Correctional Facility, which is pretty notorious for being very violent. And my first day there, seeing a young guy get stabbed up pretty bad, get into it with a guy, and because he had his pants sagging down, when he tried to turn around and run, it didn't work out for him so good. So
with you earlier, you say you was from Detroit and everything, growing up in the hood. Would you say you were living right at that time?
Absolutely not. I was not living right.
So with you not living right, and then you going through that situation and go to this place of hell, what was the mind shift that you had to, okay, with me being in this situation, I'm not going to, do the same stuff that I was doing when I was out. I'm going to try to, fight to prove my innocence and then do what's right in here.
That's a great question. And I think the answer is in your question. Being innocent and being in that environment, desiring nothing more than to prove my innocence, I couldn't live that life anymore. I could have sold drugs in prison. That happens in prison. Yeah. Everything that you can do in the streets, it happens in prison as well. But I made a conscious decision to give all that stuff up because I desired nothing more than to prove my innocence. And the very thought of doing anything that would destroy that, I was like totally against. And I knew I had to grow. I had to grow from the level that I was on in order to outgrow prison.
Gotcha. Did you have any kids at the time?
Yes, I have a daughter that's probably older than you. No, she was born in 98. My daughter, she was 2.5 at the time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So with you basically saying that you didn't want to jeopardize anything that you had going on by selling drugs in prison, did you have to separate yourself from certain people in prison that you had good relationships with just because of that?
No. The thought of doing something like that in prison, it hadn't even crossed my mind because I was just so focused on
proving your innocence.
Absolutely,
Right.
and learning what I needed to learn so that I could fight how I needed to fight. That wasn't even a thought. The thing about prison is you always find what you're looking for. If you're a tough guy, you're going to find a whole lot of opportunities to either prove it or learn some things about yourself that you didn't know. Whatever you're looking for, you're going to find. And since I was looking to grow, that's what I found. I constantly found opportunities to grow. It wasn't always easy. I had many battles on a whole lot of different levels in prison. And that comes with growth. You're growing, you're gonna have to outgrow some situations. If you say you're a champion, the opportunity to prove that you're a champion is gonna be there. But you always find what you're looking for when you're in that environment. And if you're looking for garbage, you will find a lot of it.
Definitely find it.
Yeah.
Can you talk about some of those battles that you went up against trying to grow in the situation?
Man, don't let him ask no more questions. I'll tell you about a personal, inner battle. Since bro talked about it in the check-in that most of the things that we go through, and I agree and go a little farther, all of the things that we go through starts on the inside, the internal battles. Mm-hmm. And one of my biggest battles that I fought and overcame is when I was arrested, I didn't know how to read and write. I didn't know how to read and write. So, but I was highly functional. I was a highly functional illiterate. Nobody knew that. I was in the streets. I was able to, get money and, keep my fronts up. It was never a thing. It didn't even matter because I wasn't even trying to really do anything.
Right.
But after I was arrested, a really good friend of mine, I pieced a letter together for it. It took me probably weeks, a couple of weeks to put it together. And it was sloppy and all of that. I had wrote it 100 times trying to make it look right and had got some help on how you spell this and this and this and that. And then I sent it to her and called her on the phone and she was like, I need to talk to you about something. She said, that letter you sent me, she said, don't ever send me anything like that again. She said, you're better than that. You're smarter than that. And she said, you had missing words, you had misspelled words, and it had no emotion in it. She said, you could have took my name off and put anybody else's name on it and sent it to him. And I was like, wow, that was a blow.
Right.
But it was the blow I needed.
Yeah.
Because the very next day, I got a dictionary from somebody, and I started asking guys, how you spell this? I started taking notes. I started practicing my handwriting. I taught myself how to read because I had too much pride and ego to actually sit down and let somebody teach me. And then I didn't trust anybody around me, so I would just ask. Yeah. And I had always had a great memory, so I would remember what people told me. And I never had to ask twice about the same word. Pretty soon I built a vocabulary, and I was writing letters for guys in the county jail. I eventually started writing stories, and then I eventually started writing books, and then now I have a published book, and it's a best-selling book. So, that was like one of the that was one of the things that I'm most proud of. That fight right there, because it opened so many doors. When you expand your vocabulary, you actually expand the thoughts that you are able to have. Mm-hmm. Like if you don't know no words, that means you don't know any definitions. And if you don't know any definitions, how can you even add on to the thoughts that you have?
All right, yeah. So, I mean, like, when you mentioned, like, writing a book and, like, actually getting the dictionary, or when you got the dictionary, in prison, and, you start practicing how to write, handwriting, that kind of reminded me of the movie Malcolm X. When he got the dictionary from my man.
Yeah, very similar. I had the same dictionary for the entire time I was in there. the same dictionary, and it was so raggedy and toe up and broke up. Of course, I had other dictionaries too, but I had that same one that I started with. You know, I had an emotional connection to it. It was very sentimental because it meant so much to me because I literally learned how to read and write by utilizing that particular tool. But I'm proud of it, man. I put my writing up against anybody. I write fiction and nonfiction, but I chose for my first book and probably my next book is a self-help book because that I have a huge desire to help people. And I want people to be able to learn from the things that help make me into the man that I am today. So I use my experience in the interactive self-help book style to help people.
I think you mentioned the Nation of Islam. Did you stumble across that in prison?
Yes, one of the things that attracted me was the discipline. It was something about seeing that level of discipline, as well as that level of intelligence that I knew I needed if I was to be free. I knew I needed that type of discipline in my life because, up until that point, I had no discipline. I was in the streets and eating how I wanted to eat and live how I wanted to live and talk how I wanted to talk. And I just didn't possess that discipline. So when I seen the first person that I could recognize as being so disciplined that he appeared to be different, it's like he stood out. Yeah. I said, whatever he got, I need. Whatever he got, I need that for myself. And that's what I did.
So we're creating that discipline. And like certain things that you were able to learn and pick up in prison. What was something that you was able to, pick up in prison and bring back to when you were released?
Well, that's a great question. If you notice, I don't know, how many people that have done a lot of time, but all of us kind of come home with like routines. Prison is very routine. You get up at a certain time, you eat at a certain time, you stick to a particular regiment that kind of work for you in there. And if you bring that same level of discipline and routine in an environment where everybody else is loose, you can't do nothing but win. Yeah. You're going to win every time. If you're waking up earlier than everybody, if you're taking care of yourself, if you paying attention to your environment, if you're treating people with respect, because in prison you got to have a certain level of respect because just a misplaced word can get a whole lot of people hurt. Yeah. A misplaced word from you put you and everybody you connected with and the person that you're dealing with and everybody they connected with in danger. Yeah. So you learn how to communicate with people. You learn how to address problems and issues. When something go on in my life, I put it on the floor because that's how it's done in prison. Because if it's not dealt with properly, somebody can get hurt and it'd be unnecessary. Like it was about a ramen noodle, but because you didn't communicate, 3-4 people just got stabbed because you didn't communicate. So out here where people don't like to address problems, I'm the first one to address it. Like, hey, listen, I was wrong. I apologize if I approach that problem and bothers you a certain type of way. That won't happen again, and then this is how we can move forward. Yeah. And that's refreshing to people, and it gives you an advantage when you're dealing with people with that type of respect. Right. A respect that's kind of uncommon out here in society. So those are some of the things that I brought out of prison with me.
Yeah. Because there was a guy that, my bad, I didn't mean to cut you off. It was a guy that came in, the cash was cutting, Meech. And he was saying how...
shout out Meech, man.
Yeah,
he put this whole thing together and introduced us to Marvin, and you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Solid guy.
Yeah,
shout out Meech.
Yeah, Meech that's my family. Him and his entire family is important to me and my entire family. That's my guy. I worked out with him yesterday. He beat me down, too.
Got you together?
Yeah, he beat me down yesterday.
No, he was speaking on... Because I had asked him a question. He was speaking on the biggest difference that he learned when he came back was... out in the streets, a lot of times in this generation, there's no type of level of respect. Like you could be in the store, and if you so close to somebody, you know, in prison, you have to say, yo, excuse me, pardon me.
Right.
Just to show that level of respect, kind of to the point you were saying, to where if you would do that in prison, now you just created a problem.
Right.
For you and other people like that. So that was one of the reasons I had asked the question too.
Being in prison and, running in the circles that I ran in, I talked to everybody, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, excuse me. I still have that high level of etiquette, as I move around my life. And that opened doors that money cannot open. That opened doors that even relationships can't open if you're talking to people and treating people with respect and you approaching them and you handling them properly. That goes a long way. So that's how I move. Everywhere I go, I'm the friendliest person in every room I'm in. I kick it with everybody. I address everybody, and I handle people the way I would want somebody to handle my daughter.
You think behind the walls, like you think like maybe like people were more authentic, like more like like you for sure say
No.
respectful, but okay, not like authentic in the sense like where you thinking like real or nothing, but like when you get out here and you like you said like people don't really be trying to take care of the problem off rip.
Well, you got
compared to in the walls, it's like we gonna handle this right here, right now, like.
Yeah, but prison, a lot of people, virtually almost everyone got a mask on. Okay. So that take the authenticity away, because almost everybody got a mask on. Either they're hiding their power and their strength because they got an angle, or they're pretending to be something that they're not because they got an angle. Now, of course, everybody got an agenda in life, and that's okay. Agendas is neither positive or negative. It just is. But when you're in an unnatural environment like prison, it can redirect your agenda. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a limited environment. It's closed off. Everybody hungry. Everybody got something they want. Everybody want to be free. It's not enough for everybody. And sometimes guys get out of prison with that small yard type of thinking. Man. That's what they call it in prison. It's called the yard. When you outside, it's called the yard. Right. So I know you hear guys from the joint say that all the time. Like, I was out on the yard, and that's what that means. But when you come out into society, this huge world with all this opportunity, like y'all built this beautiful business for yourselves, huge opportunity. But when you have small yard thinking individuals, they can't see this. Right. They just think it's just enough for them. It's just enough for me. I'm a barber. I got all I need is one chair. I don't need nobody else. If I got 10 chairs, I'm the only barber. Like, no, you got to think bigger than that. And sometimes that happens in prison where everybody perceives that it's only so much that everybody's going after that same thing.
So I want to speak on one more thing, vision. So the reason I brought up vision is because when you're going through something like that, I believe it's so important, like for you to have a vision, because you got to vision yourself, proving your innocence and being able to get out of there. So what was the biggest thing that kept your vision like open rather than, you giving up and losing faith? Because I think you said you went through 6 to 7 different, was it prosecutors?
No, private investigators.
Private investigators.
Yeah.
So going through stuff like that and steady, like it's not getting to the point where you want it to be at, that could cause you to, to lose your vision. And
I always knew that I would be free. I always knew I didn't quite know what the process would look like in order to get where I'm at. But I always knew that I would be sitting in a seat like this, talking to people like y'all. I always knew that. I knew I wasn't going to die in prison, but that kept me motivated. I didn't want to die in prison. I wanted to restore my name, and I didn't want my daughter to live her life just knowing her father in prison. And I just came and I was gone and to be forgotten. That kept me motivated. But when it comes to vision, I don't believe that I gave myself the vision that I had. after I was locked up for about 2.5, 3 years, I would get what I call pictures. I would get visions of how life would be many years into the future. I didn't know it was going to take 20 damn years.
Yeah.
But, I believe God showed me visions of the things that I'll be doing. And that's why the work that I do is so easy. And I'm not going to say it's easy, but I move confidently with it because I already seen it.
Yeah.
He already showed it to me. I'm just literally following the footsteps of the pictures that he showed me when I was in prison. I'm talking 17, 18 years ago, and I'm still following those pictures.
So yeah, I wanna pivot
And I haven't
back
told
to
many people that, and I don't think I've ever spoke on it on any show or any podcast or any radio show or anything I've ever done. I've only told that to a few of my closest people. So that's an exclusive.
Exclusive.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hey, real quick, so like, you giving us exclusive, so it's like, what pictures was you seeing? Like, so you seen like maybe yourself writing a book already? And
Oh yeah. I knew I was gonna write a book when I was in the van leaving the county jail, going to prison. They shackled us all up. I was the last person on the
for
van.
the first time. Like going for the first.
You going that first trip from the county jail to prison. I was the last one on the van. I was the last one at the end of the chain. So when they closed the door was right there. So I stared out the back window the entire ride. And I knew then that one day I would write about my story. I knew that I would write about my story. And I had just started learning how to read and write then. But I knew one day I would. And that came long before I started getting those pictures or those visions.
So yeah, I wanna pivot back to the book, Better Not Broken. When going through the process of writing this book, did you ever find it was traumatizing, or you caught bad memories just rethinking and reliving those memories writing a book? Because the first couple chapters, it's just like, damn, the detail that, you feel when you read those words, it gave me chills. So I could only imagine you being free and then reliving this, putting it into a book, kind of just brought back some bad memories for you.
I'm gonna give y'all another exclusive. When I first wrote the book and completed it, I wasn't happy with the product that I completed. I read it. I didn't feel like I was being open enough. I didn't feel like I was pouring onto the pages. I felt like I was, kind of sprinkling onto the pages.
You was kind of holding back some of that real emotion.
So I read it and I wasn't happy. So I deleted 80% of the book a week before I released it. I just deleted. I set it to the laptop and I just deleted. Then I sat there for 2 days and cried and just looked at my damn laptop, not being able to do anything. I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. I had sold a lot of pre-sale books, and I told my queen, I said, I'm gonna give everybody their money back, and then I just finish it up over the next few months and then do a re-release type of thing.
Right.
And she said, nah, you can do it. You got it. You can do it.
Right.
And it went from, you can do it to, no, you can do it. No, you gonna do it. No, you gonna sit here and get it done. So over the course of a few hours, after those couple of days of just sitting at the computer screen, I started writing. And 80% of what you read and hear, I wrote in 4.5, 5 days. And I just poured myself into it. But there was chapters and there were points where after I wrote it, I just stopped and just like, damn. Like this is me. I went through this. So there were points where, it just stuck me. It just, even I talk about things before prison, like childhood and things that I went through. I get stuck on some of those things too, where I just be like, wow, I went through that, or I experienced that, or I seen that. And that made me who I am as well. But when I rewrote most of this book, I know I poured into the book then. Yep. So y'all getting all the goods today.
Yeah. This is a question for me personally, because I'm I've been working on writing a book too. And in the midst of me writing my book, certain stuff I started to write about, I started to realize, like, damn, man, I really dealt with some shit. And it started to have me damn near in tears for real. But I'm at a point to where I understand it's cool for a man to cry and it's okay for a man to cry, but I don't know how to cry. So when you said you look back at the book that you wrote in the pages and you cried, like, how were you able to do that?
Although prison kind of, messed me up in a lot of ways to where I'm disconnected in a lot of ways. It did, the parts of me that is connected, I'm very comfortable with. If I was at a point where I needed to cry now, I would cry now. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with talking about that because I'm comfortable with me. I'm not trying to be hard. I know what I do. If you're trying to do something to me, I know what I do in order to protect my life and to protect lives of others. So I don't have anything to prove. I don't try to be tough. I don't try to look this way. I don't care what people think in that way. I just don't. So I'm pretty comfortable with myself and talking about it. It's therapeutic. And then, other men and other people need to hear that, man. You don't have to. If you feel yourself holding back, then you already know you're doing the wrong thing. You're doing an injustice to yourself when you feel yourself holding back. You're doing an injustice to yourself. So I think we just got to learn, and it's okay. It's a lifelong process. I hope to be even more comfortable with myself, but it's a lifelong process to kind of go with the flow of your nature and who you are and allow that to have a positive impact on the reality around you. It's a lifelong process, but walk it though.
So I feel like this would be probably the most important topic of today, despite everything you've been through, your journey, your 19 years in prison. Let's talk about the advocacy work that you're putting in now for other inmates and other people that had similar situations like yours. How are you helping people in today's community? How many people have you helped get out of prison?
Yeah. I told you, prison really made me into a fighter. Life, in the way I grew up, made me into a fighter. My mom's made me into a fighter. But the work that I do now is really an extension of my life and the circumstances that I come out of. I don't want to see anybody else suffer. I don't want to see anybody else go through what I went through. So I do involve myself and advocate for innocent people. And since I spent time in prison around tens of thousands of different men and watched them suffer, I seen the things that was wrong with the criminal justice system from the start all the way through to how people are treated inside of prison. And I don't desire for anybody to go through any of those ills, nor do I desire for those that work in the prison and the officers on the street that even go through what they're going through that will have them treat anybody other than the way that they're supposed to treat them. Right. So I try to involve myself in many of the processes that will make life more pleasant and fair for everybody. So I do a lot of advocacy work. My company, Better Not Broken LLC, I do motivational speaking. It has taken me around the country, into universities, into high schools, middle schools, elementary schools, juvenile facilities. Nonprofit organizations have hosted me and brought me into different trainings and panels. And I love what I do through my company. But I also work for Nation Outside, which is a nonprofit that's ran by returning citizens, people that have been directly impacted by the criminal justice system. And Nation Outside is a beautiful organization. We've collaborated with and partnered with many other nonprofits that works in this space to kind of make the criminal justice system better, from making sure that we pass and support laws that would make it harder to just mess over people. Yeah. Our communities need things. Everybody's community need things, but having a bad criminal justice system is one thing we don't need. We need it to be better. I I sit on, I'm one of the co-founders of the Organization of Exonerees, which deals with exonerated people, not only in Michigan, but around the country. And I'm one of the co-founders, and I still sit on the board as the vice president. We travel and advocate for innocent people to get out. We've involved ourselves in many cases, and we've walked many men out of prison. Everybody in our organization is exonerated. I sit on the board of a couple of more nonprofits as well. Some involved in politics, and others are involved in the criminal justice system as well. I don't get much rest, but I'm okay with that at this point. I know a lot of people will be like, that's unhealthy, self-care, and it's true.
Right.
It's true. But just where I'm at in my life, those things are so important that it can't take a back seat. And what I hope is that more people buy into the work that needs to be done instead of being observers, actually join in on the work, and then maybe people like myself wouldn't have to wear so many hats. But that's some of the work I do. I do a lot of the violence prevention in the community as well. A lot of the violence that take place in the city of Detroit, it really bothers me. Just this past week, I was in Arizona at the Innocence Conference, but I'm looking at crime in the D, and I'm seeing all of these shootings and all of these fights, and I'm like, a lot of the people in the circles that I'm a part of, we're trying to make the community better. And then I'm watching, and I see so many people that's trying to make the community worse. And I love the people that's trying to make the community worse as well. So I'm conflicted. I'm like, so it really bothers me. Like, everything bothers me now. That's what prison changed me. Everything bothers me now. I can't ride past nothing without getting involved. If I see somebody with a flat tire, I'm trying to help. It's like something about my experience. I cannot ride past anything anymore. I get involved in everything on my way home. It's just like ridiculous. But when I see things and the violence that's taking place in the city, and I see the murders, it's like the solutions to our problems are dying, and we're putting them in the grave. Like, everybody was born with a purpose. Everybody was born for a reason. And when you see the violence, our purpose for our community is being murdered. Our brothers and our sisters out here that's catching these stray bullets or part of these beefs that's so unnecessary. The things that we pray for is in those people that's being killed off. So when I see it, it just really bothers me, because I know we need them. And we need the ones that's out here doing all the dirt. We need them too.
We need more people to be more like political, like more people like us, like younger people too, like to be more in the criminal system, like more lawyers, more. You know what I'm saying? We need more everything, but what we need most of all is, no matter what lane you are in, we need more hands on deck. We need more people putting their hands on these children that's out here, because it's the young 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, early 20s that's out here turning the streets upside down. So we need more parents. We need more people that don't even have children to get their hands on these children, get out in the community, stop being scared to be in the hood, and go in the hood and deal with them and talk with them. Talk with them, put them to work, give them opportunities. But we can't continue to let things go in the direction that it's going. If it continue to go in this direction, we're going to receive a huge punishment and wrath because we have to stop what's going on in the city of Detroit, as well as around the country. Yeah.
And like you said, I believe it starts with guidance and us reaching like the youth and people like us that look like us around our same age. It's showing them like a different way other than what systematically we glamorize.
Yeah.
Like,
and we got to go harder than them. This guy's in the streets going hard in the streets.
Hey.
They going hard. We got to go hard too, because if you want to change the culture that's being created out here. I was listening to the radio one day, and this bothered me so much. I was listening to the radio, and they were talking about one of those school shootings, one of those mass shootings, and it was like it was a real horrible mass shooting. A bunch of people lost their lives and was shot. And the disc jockey was like, yeah, this is bad, this is horrible, we got to do something about it. And then the very next song he played after that was one of them old drill songs talking about shooting people. Now, I bet you he didn't even make the connection.
Right. Subliminally contradicted itself.
Absolutely. And we're promoting it. Yeah. Like, it's a few songs that's in the top 10. When you listen to the song, the whole song is about violence. Yeah. The whole song is about murder. The whole song is about killing people for the littlest of things. You disrespect me, I'm going to kill you. You do this, I'm going to kill you. Ain't none of that stuff worth killing anybody for. But, like, we got a lot of work to do. We got to go just as hard as the people that's promoting violence. We got to go just as hard to promote peace. Yeah. We got to get our hands on these children. They idolizing people that's taking them and moving them towards death. I know I didn't talk about my book much, but I guess that's just the flow of where we at.
That's real shit, though. That's the life we live in, man. We living with kids taking out other kids.
Yeah.
And if we keep going at that point, like you said, we definitely going to be in a world of trouble.
Then we talk about it all the time where we say, like, as youth and in our generation and stuff, we idolize wealth. So it's like we have to make it a point of us to show, like, okay, we could have these nice things, we could, be fly as hell in these cars, these clothes, but we doing it business-wise.
Okay.
We don't have to be doing all of this.
Think about this. You have people out there killing for things, taking life, that there's no value on life because what you can do with your life can have such an impact. And they're killing for things that's not even going to be in style next year. Ain't nobody going to care what a scat pat is in 5 years. It's going to be people sitting in prison for carjackings, for cars. By the time they get out, ain't nobody even going to be driving or thinking about that car. Yeah. And they're giving up their life for it. They're giving up their life for a 392. And it ain't even worth it. You know what I'm saying? Think about the cars that was hot. Well, I guess that is back in the day for y'all, these cars. but back in the day for me, you got a 5.0. Ain't nobody driving no 5.0s no more. But how many people lost their life for 5.0s? How many people, when it came time to send their children to college, didn't have the money because they was trying to wear Gucci suits every day to impress people, but when it was time to send their children to college, they didn't have the money, and those same Gucci suits they can't even wear. Yeah. They can't wear, they ain't even in style no more. So we just got to take a deeper look at who we are and get comfortable in the skin that we in, the nature that God gave us, so that we can start just making better decisions, man, because all of our legacies, all of our future is like tied together, man. Can I get a haircut?
Yeah, man, that's
set that up for sure.
Yeah, that was deep. I ain't gonna lie, you dropped a whole lot of gems, man.
Yeah. So my book, it is an Amazon bestseller. You can find it on Amazon. Guarantee you that it will touch you one way or another. My experience. I think I put information in there that can help everybody, no matter what you're going through. Although I use my wrongful conviction and the crucifixion type of experience that I went through in order to teach people, I wrote it in a way that no matter what you're going through, you can learn from it. No matter what you're going through, you can learn from it. So whatever struggle you have going on in your life, I use the tools that help me get through my struggles to show you how you can use, if you see fit, to use it in your life to get through what you're going through. I call it Better Not Broken, not because I'm arriving you at a destination, but I want to continue to take you through just constantly getting better and better and better, because that's what I'm striving for myself.
Man, that's dope.
That's hard, man. We appreciate you for coming on today, man. You know, it's Out the Chair podcast. We appreciate all of our supporters, all of our subscribers. Continue to support. We want you to support our brother's book. Go cop it off Amazon, Better Not Broken. And you know, man, stay blessed, stay motivated.
Yes,
Appreciate it, man.
sir.